All together now. Just having a nice cruise on the water. Oh! Whoa! It's somebody's birthday. That's the biggest candle I've ever seen. Oh, that was the end. Please let this serve as notice to anybody even thinking about bringing drugs into the United States of America. Beware! And thank you for your attention to this matter. Let's get to the boat. All right, we have this statement from Trump. I'm going to read it because I love reading these Truth Social statements from Trump. Donald J. Trump, the great and powerful president of the United States, earlier this morning on my orders, capital O, U.S. military forces conducted a kinetic strike against positively identified Trinidad Aragua narco-terrorists in the Southcom area of responsibility. This, by the way, is where Trump has sent all these naval and marine resources the last week or so. And you know what Venezuela did? Have you heard? It was over the Labor Day weekend, so you may not have heard. Maduro, the dictator of Venezuela, basically started firing fireworks at the naval vessels. How do you think that's going to work out for Venezuela, for TDA, for Maduro? TDA is a designated foreign terrorist organization operating under the control of Nicolas Maduro, the dictator, responsible for mass murder, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, and acts of violence and terror across the United States and Western Hemisphere. This kinetic strike occurred while the terrorists were at sea in international waters, transporting illegal narcotics, heading to the United States. The strike resulted in 11 terrorists killed in action. No U.S. forces were harmed in this strike. Please let this serve as notice to anybody even thinking about bringing drugs into the United States of America. Beware! And thank you for your attention to this matter. Indeed, thank you, President Trump. And look at how upset the liberals are. 11 terrorists killed. Translation, that's 11 people who will never get cross-examined in court. Is this allowed, to just bomb people who you perceive guilty of something without putting them through the judicial system? What was the point of democracy then? Not even Russia or China can do this. Another day of proving that MAGA people are a bunch of losers who don't have any principle or moral values. They say they care about law and order and due process, but they cheer when their king kills a group of people and claims they were drug dealers without any proof. More and more and more of that. We've got the left defending the drug dealers. Of course, they presume the drug dealers that they're innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But their government's assertion of evidence of the drug dealing, that, of course, can't presume anything there. You have to presume it's the lying King Trump. Gunther Eagleman, a great account on X, says, you want to try trafficking drugs? It's a new day. It's a different day. And so those 11 drug traffickers are no longer with us. I voted for this, Gunther says. Agree. I voted for this 1,000 times over. Let's hear what Pete Hegseth has to say.
The president put that video of him eviscerating, blowing up that boat coming across with all of the drugs on board. And the president said on social, on Truth Social, let them be on notice to anybody bringing drugs to the U.S. Beware. So the president is sending a message to other cartels, right?
A very clear one. I can tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that was Trinidad Aragua, a narco-terrorist organization designated by the United States, trying to poison our country with illicit drugs. Last year, under the Biden administration, all 4 years, 100,000 Americans died from drug-related from drugs, from the use of drugs, many of which poured in from Central and South America through our southwest border.
It's more than that. 50,000 a year are dying from fentanyl.
Now, we're sealing the border, but...
You know, if you're of a certain age, like this humble small-town attorney, when I was coming of age, cocaine was everywhere. Everywhere. I was living in New York City. Cocaine was everywhere. And thank God I was poor. That's all I can say. Thank God I was poor. Cocaine was everywhere. And everyone was doing cocaine. But here's the thing. And by the way, the cocaine was trash. It was what you could get on the street was garbage. It was cut with baby laxatives and all kinds of stuff. dilute it down so the drug dealers could make more money. But as bad as the cocaine might have been on the street, at least it didn't have fentanyl in it. A microgram of too much fentanyl and you're dead. Everybody in the room is dead. That's the world we're living in today, thanks to these drug dealers.
President Trump is willing to go on offense in ways that others have not been, and to send that clear signal to Tren de Aragua, Cartel del Sols, and others emanating from Venezuela. We're not going to allow this kind of activity. You're poisoning our people. We've got incredible assets, and they are gathering in the region. And so you want to try to traffic drugs? It's a new day. It's a different day. And so those 11 drug traffickers are no longer with us, sending a very clear signal that this is an activity the United States is not going to tolerate in our hemisphere.
All right. And what do the liberals have to? Oh, I got the boat for you. I almost forgot. I got the boats. So I have the bombing of the plane set to music. Everybody ready? You excited? I'm excited. All together now. Just having a nice cruise on the water. Oh! Whoa! It's somebody's birthday. That's the biggest candle I've ever seen. Oh, that was the end. That was the end. And of course, the liberals are going crazy. Going crazy. International waters. No trial. No evidence shown. Just a video of people being blown up and called terrorists. That's state terrorism. My response was, and to think this, the poor people on this boat, they were just on a 3-hour tour. Anybody recognize that boat? Or the reference? 3-hour tour? I guess you do have to be of a certain age to know that. You can throw it in the comments. First person to do a super chat with the name wins the hand of applause. A 3-hour tour, indeed. Complaints from the left. So the United States Navy sent 4,000 service members and 8 U.S. warships to the Caribbean to blow up a defenseless fishing boat that had 11 Venezuelans on it and a couple of bags of drugs. Is that what I just watched? What am I missing here? Michael got it. The SS Minnow, of course, from Gilligan's Island. Congratulations, Michael. Congratulations. You nailed it. And I thought this guy's response was pretty good, so I'm going to read it in its entirety. Harold Finch, whoever that is, he writes, "Hey, Caroline, since you don't understand this, I'll step in and help you out. You see, for decades, drug trafficking to the U.S. was super easy. Go fast boats, airplanes, narco subs, and easiest of all was ship the product to Mexico and pay the cartels there a royalty for cross-border shipment to the U.S. distribution networks because, you know, the border was wide effing open. Thanks, President Joe Autopen, Dementia Biden. Now, under the Trump administration, tunnels are being found and closed or used for cross-border ops. The wall is nearly finished and continues to be built, and the length of the border is pretty much sealed by thousands of U.S. military personnel backing up Customs and Border Patrol there. In short, the border isn't an easy, ready-made delivery system anymore. So the bad guys, and yes, the drug cartels are the bad guys, in case you didn't know that, have figured out their product goes to Mexico and gets stuck. So they're reverting back to their old ways, boats, subs, and planes. And the exact assets in the Caribbean are effing awesome at detecting, monitoring, tracking, and neutralizing all of that traffic. A fast attack sub is amazing at detection for sea targets. The Aegis ships are fantastic at coordinating interdiction of all targets and are absolutely the best in the world at tracking surface and air targets. So there's overlap and handoff and command and control. The Marines are great at visit, board, search, and seizure and have helicopter assets fantastic at killing surface and semi-submersible craft. And the Aegis ships can vector fighter jets from CONUS, the continental United States, to kill drug flights. In short, since the border is now closed, the U.S. Navy and Marines just occupied the supply lines of the entire drug supply system to the U.S. If you need further explanation of any of this, let me know. Hope this helps. Love, Harold. Here's another proper take, proper understanding of what's happening with all these assets being sent to the Caribbean. The United States Navy sent 4,000 service members and 8 U.S. warships to the Caribbean to blow up a designated terrorist paramilitary organization's vessel that had 11 Venezuelan paramilitary on it conducting chemical warfare operations against the U.S. Operations are ongoing. That's the proper understanding of drug smuggling, folks, especially in this age of fentanyl. This is an ongoing chemical warfare operation against our nation. We are a nation at war with Venezuela, with Trinidad and Tobago, with the Mexican cartels. It may be an undeclared war, but if someone punches you in the face 100 times, it's 100 punches, whether they declared it or not, and Trump is fighting back. Hopefully, this is just a start. Another complaint. This is problematic. The U.S. just executed a drug dealer, 11 of them, actually, without any due process. You know what's the due process? Can anybody guess what the due process here is? Without any due process, a trial, or any appeals. What is the limiting principle? What is the limiting principle? What other kinds of criminals can we now execute without warning? And what's this intervention? A war? How long? What's the mission? The mission is to attrit the chemical warfare operation, the war campaign being waged against our nation. That's the mission. What's the limiting principle? How do you avoid having this happen to you, folks? Any ideas? I have an idea. The limiting principle is don't be a drug dealer smuggling boatloads of fentanyl into my nation. Then you don't get blowed up. You don't get blowed up like the SS Minnow on a 3-hour cruise. By the way, all this energy that's being brought against the drug dealers, Trinidad, Tobago, Venezuela, which I think is completely appropriate because I think it's commensurate. It's proportional to the degree of the threat. This chemical warfare operation being waged against America is killing tens of thousands of Americans every year. If they were coming in with guns and doing that, with artillery, with tanks, how would America respond? Why should it be any different because it's being done with chemical means as opposed to munitions? But having said that, I think there's an even greater threat to American sovereignty and survival, an existential threat, and that is migration, third world migration, illegal and legal. And I personally would like to see the same energy brought against third world migration to America, indeed greater energy brought against third world migration into America and the remigration of the third world out of America, as we just saw with the SS Minnow. Unless it's de minimis immigration, it's extermination. They are murdering you. The migrants, the third world migrants coming to America today are murdering you. As we're seeing in Europe, you're being murdered. They're getting fake degrees, and he's talking here about the legal migrants. They're getting fake degrees, taking jobs you and your kids should have had, and buying new cars with money you paid taxes for. These resources were supposed to be yours. Now you will starve and die in the gutter while these third world migrants get fat and have 20 kids. You are very badly mentally ill if you haven't noticed yet.